But we start this hour with a report by a US news outlet, Politico, which has said that the European Union is preparing sanctions against China over its alleged supply of drone parts to Russia and possibly supporting Moscow's ongoing military operations in Ukraine. According to these reports, 15 EU countries have confronted Beijing about the shipments, but China has either denied involvement or refused to respond. As per a European diplomat speaking to Politico, the EU plans to push for sanctions after August. This comes after reports appeared to have claimed that China has been supplying motors for drones disguised as commercial refrigeration units to bypass existing Western sanctions. These supplies are believed to aid Russia's effort in Ukraine, further escalating tensions between the EU and China. Well, joining us to discuss this development and these reports is Stephen Nagy, a professor at the International Christian University, who's joining us live from Budapest. Stephen, thank you, as always, for joining us. Some big developments. We do have to caveat that these are only reports. We haven't had official confirmation yet. But how significant would this be if the EU looks to place sanctions on China over these alleged drone parts shipments?
Well, thanks, Joshua, for having me. And I think it's really important for us to look at China's involvement in Russia's invasion of Ukraine, primarily from the viewpoint of supporting Russia's war efforts. And that means supporting its war economy, the ability to continue to produce the kinds of equipment, drones, weaponry, and machinery to be involved and continue to prosecute the war against Ukraine. Most evidence suggests that China has used third countries to deliver those resources to Russia. Most reports has shown that it's been a significant boost in Russia's capability to continue to prosecute a war against the Ukraine. And of course, if Ukraine loses or Ukraine continues to fracture or continues to engage in war with Russia, this is certainly not in United European Union's interest. And with that, I think the European Union has said this is our red line. We can no longer tolerate China's indirect support through third countries for Russia's war on Ukraine, and they are moving to do something. I guess the questions that I have regarding this statement by the European Union is what is the connection to the recent trade deal with the Trump administration? Is it part of a coordinated effort to, again, cut off Russia, or is it something that's been done unilaterally by the Europeans themselves? And at this stage, we don't know.
Yes, Stephen, how do we expect China may react, not just to these potential allegations, but also if sanctions are placed on them?
Denial, denial, denial. The foreign minister and its spokespeople will continue to say that China has conducts its foreign policy based on the so-called 5 principles of peaceful coexistence, non-interference, respecting each other's sovereignty, mutual respect, non-aggression, and win-win diplomacy. But in reality, as we look at the partnership without limits between Russia and China that was signed just prior to Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, what we've seen is that the Chinese have shifted their position and continue to support Russia. They understand the conflict with Ukraine slightly differently, that if Russia does lose, that it will come out much weaker. It could potentially fracture, or it could become more hyper-nationalistic. And from China's perspective, all these 3 scenarios are negative for China, in that if Russia loses, the United States will then concentrate all its resources, including the resources of the EU and other countries, on China. If Russia fractures, this is very dangerous for China in terms of energy resources and other resources that are delivered to China. And if China becomes more Russia becomes more hyper-nationalistic, well, this could become a much bigger problem for China, because they've wed their economy, their energy resources, and their diplomacy to their neighbor, Russia.
Absolutely. Stephen, please do stay with us. Of course, there is a lot to monitor in this situation.